In this episode, I speak with both Tron Black and Jeremy Corbin of the RavenCoin project, but I don't think that their views on proof of stake and FPGAs are what you expect. Welcome back. My name is Seth Estrada, and if you're watching this video, you're probably on my YouTube channel, Seth Estrada, or you're on Mind Your Biz on bittubers.com or library.tv. I was so excited to be able to talk to Tron Black and Jeremy Corbin at the Overstock headquarters building. They were extremely generous in their hosting and extremely generous with their time in answering questions and in kind of pivoting away from only talking about the development of their project into more broad topics such as proof of work as well as privacy concerns. Without further ado, this is the interview, minimally edited. You're like, I get paid to be like, So the big question that I ask every coin project founder and every lead developer is, where was that point where it just kind of became unbearable and you said, okay, that's the last straw, the pain is too great, I've got to fix this? And what was that?
Yeah, well, for this project, the genesis was actually Patrick and Bruce talking. And so Bruce's idea was a coin based on Bitcoin, right? So it was a code fork of Bitcoin that you could also issue assets on top of. So it really competes, I think, a little bit with Counterparty or Mastercoin or Omni, a little bit with the ERC20, that kind of thing. So it's the ability to create your own token on it. And so it didn't start out that way, but that was the original plan and the original goal. So, yeah.
Can you maybe vicariously explain where was the pain associated with that? That they just decided, okay, we've got to fix this. Were they scratching their own itch? And if so, was there any kind of an anecdote or a personal experience that they had?
Yeah, well, I think the advantage to being able to create assets on this particular platform is that it's more seamless than it is on a second tier, for example. It also has allowed us to create what we're just releasing now, and Jeremy's done most of the work on this, is restricted assets. And this is the ability to have an asset that has a different rule set kind of built in. So, okay. And the reason for that is because there's some requirements for security tokens. And these requirements are mostly driven by the US, mostly driven by the SEC. It doesn't affect the other assets, doesn't affect RavenCoin, the token or the coin. It's just a new asset class that kind of complies with some of the
stricter rules.
Stricter rules, yeah. Yeah. So one of the rules, for example, of an issuer is that they have to issue it to somebody who's KYC, for example. And so we have this ability to tag addresses with not with the KYC information on chain, but somebody who can hold the KYC privately can tag something that says, hey, the KYC exists for this address, and then the token itself will honor that on chain. So you can create your own token, your own name, guaranteed, you're the only one that has it, and you can say this token can only move to addresses that have this particular KYC token, or KYC tag rather, and so then it can move only to this subset of addresses, and that allows the issuers to stay compliant.
We've added another rule set, so you can kind of choose. You can use the existing model, which is like, I can send assets anywhere. There's really no regulation. This allows you to regulate it however you would like. The rule set can be very large or very small, but the issuer gets to choose.
And you can distinguish it because the restricted assets start with a $sign and the other ones don't. So you know which one you're getting, right? When you know you have a restricted asset or an unrestricted or original asset. Yeah.
I've burned more Raven than I care to publicly admit in toying with assets. Yeah. But I also mined a ton of Rito for that purpose. So
sure.
I'm trying to line up an interview with Tracy to talk about that as well. Though I think Tracy's still contributing pretty significantly to Raven as well.
Oh yeah. He's a big pool runner. Lots of support, especially with testing new features on our testnet. He's amazing. Okay. Really good guy.
That was part of what interested me in that fork, was that it was like, okay, I can try out asset issuance and see what I'm comfortable with here and see how successful a fork of this is.
Yeah.
That's open source in general, and coins, right? Everyone's always evaluating, all right, what's the best fork candidate?
It's true.
wasn't my personal itch, although I jumped on this project, right? This is, I love the project. But I think the kind of the original idea of creating assets wasn't we weren't the first, but we were kind of the first to bring it all together kind of in an easier to use. I mean, it's literally, you can just log on, have your 500 Raven, create an asset in a few clicks, and it's really quick and easy. And so I think that makes it easier for people to use than using an ERC20 or something on top of Bitcoin like a master coin or a counterparty. So, yeah.
Very cool. Well, I mean, I can definitely attest to that being the case. I've issued some ERC20 tokens on testnet just for kicks.
Yeah.
Again, I can't call myself a person who's actually interested in the space without at least following tutorials, because they're everywhere, right?
Yeah.
For Solidity. I'm not a Solidity developer, but they're everywhere, right? To figure out how to issue your own tokens. Yeah. And then comparing and contrasting that to RavenCoin asset issuance, which is like, there's no comparison.
Yeah. It's like a 2-minute tutorial video. You're like, oh, okay, done. Oh, it's there. Whoa.
Yeah.
If I recall, actually, it was Bruce he did that on, was it on Facebook that he did the original tutorial video?
Yeah,
Yep.
Facebook.
I recall.
I think it was like a live stream or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it changed everything. So for sure, at least for people who are paying attention,
Yeah.
I think it changed everything.
Yep.
So I can, as a third party, can
Oh,
attest.
for sure.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I'm curious, why, it seems apparent that there needed to be a brand new system, and you did fork directly from Bitcoin, right?
Correct.
That is
Yep.
the legacy.
Yep.
Okay. Or the lineage, rather.
Yep.
Cool. As far as it being a Satoshi-like blockchain and having it be a public ledger, it sounds like now with this new development, there's been some revisiting of concepts of not privacy per se,
Right.
but at least knowing how to create some divisions and kind of need to know information, if not privacy. I mean,
Yeah, well, the privacy works like Bitcoin does, right? I mean, if you know whose address it belongs to, privacy kind of goes away. So it's not like a Monero or a Zcash, but it does have that pseudonymity that Bitcoin does, right? I mean, it's not like your name is there, and even with this KYC information that we're talking about, that gets stored elsewhere. It's just a tag that says someone has it, right? So that allows you to kind of solve the the regulations that somebody needs to have this KYC information so that you can legally issue a token or an asset or an equity or a stock or an STO kind of thing. So that's kind of what we did. The other thing that happened, and so it did transition for us. We did have these pain points that you're talking about. These pain points, there was a transition time where it was like, okay, we're doing the fork of Bitcoin. We're creating the ability to easily create assets, which launched on November 5th.
Remember.
Of 2018. About the same time that the SEC kind of came in and said, hey, a lot of these ICOs are not, you can't run them that way, right? They weren't legally issued, et cetera. And so at that point, we kind of looked at, all right, how for an STO, which is just sort of a legal wrapper around an ICO, how do we provide the tool set to allow this to work? And so that's kind of what we focused on. So the tags, restricted assets, messaging, memos, and there's a freeze capability within the restricted assets. And so these capabilities were designed to kind of help with the STO thing. And so we really looked at the various different technologies out there like Harbor and Polymath and things like that. So what are they doing to kind of solve these problems? And then we kind of took that, and I'm just going to say we made it better. Sorry, guys.
I was going to ask if you got any phone calls from either or Polymath.
We might. Made it better, and we made it better because it allowed you can make it an ecosystem. So mostly what the ERC20-ish tokens are doing, which kind of includes these other technologies, is whitelisting. So they're basically adding through the smart contract, adding all the addresses that are allowed to hold this token. And then you have another token and you have another whitelist, another token, you have another whitelist. The difference is RavenCoin will have an address and you can just tag it with the KYC information, or tag it that it's been accredited, that this individual owns this address is accredited. And then tokens themselves can have a rule that says, oh, I'm allowed to move to an address that has a KYC tag and an accredited tag. And then those tokens can on-chain just kind of stay in this smaller ecosystem while still being compliant. And so that was kind of shift that we made, and that was a pain point where we weren't able to do. We wanted to make it a second tier layer, just kind of shift all the compliance to a second tier. But if you issue a token and you have on chain and you're holding the private key so that you can move it, then there's really no way to constrain that, right? That token would just, our existing regular tokens just would move to any address. You could just generate a new address that could move there. And that violates and gets the issuer in trouble. The person that issued the token, they're now out of compliance, at least in the US. And, I don't want to say this is all, these rules really do help US issuers. There are other jurisdictions, right, that can just use our other tokens, but this helps US issuers.
That helps, I think, a lot with demonstrating kind of the path of pain, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like it was always going to go this way.
And it was a transition. It really was. In 2017, people weren't even people actually issuing really weren't worried about it, right? And it wasn't until 2018 when they kind of went, you kind of violated a bunch of our rules, and then kind of did some actions and things and went after some of them. There's some pretty high profile ones that they're kind of going after. And it really wasn't until that point where it's like, okay, we need these tools to be able to comply with these.
Sure. Sure. Can I ask, is there anything that's public record or that you can talk about right now in terms of assets that have been minted and then issued on the RavenCoin network that were discovered to be out of compliance and that have blown up in RavenCoin holders' faces?
So thankfully no. And part of that, I think, comes from the fact that the ones that have been issued, and so for example, Bruce issued Chainstone on his, but that was sold to through credited or so it was all wasn't widely distributed like an ICO, and then also there's a little bit of education that's been going on along the way. Bruce came from that world, and so along the way, I think the people that are familiar with RavenCoin are kind of familiar with some of the rules and regulations and things and plus by the time you could issue tokens on RavenCoin, it was towards the end of that cycle. So it was November of 2017. That was very close to the end of that kind of ICO.
People kind of knew by then, hey, I don't really want to touch this part.
Yeah.
Let's leave this be for a bit.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. I'm curious then, as far as what's on the roadmap right now, and I know that you have your own blogs and your own communications, your own media and publishing.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of curious, as far as the question of privacy, and that's kind of what this whole series is on. I think I mentioned when we were with the team before that we're going to be interviewing a lot of, especially crypto note derived projects, and then some Zcash derived projects like Zclassic and others. But specifically on the topic of privacy, for the end user, the crypto enthusiast who is very much into privacy and privately holding an asset like Raven, without issuing any sub assets, burning and redeeming for sub assets.
Sure.
What recourse do they have right now? Are there tumblers? Is there a CoinJoin implementation for Raven?
Not that I really know of.
Yeah, there are. I think we are part of. Just like most other coins, we're in some of those ones where you can just switch from RavenCoin to Monero or something like that, or Monero to RavenCoin, where it's just a little bit like kind of the shape shift of old. There's still some of those out there. So that type of thing exists. Our wallets do the thing that the best practices or whatever, creating new change addresses and things like that. But the privacy for RavenCoin and for RavenCoin assets is not at the level of Zcash or Monero.
Yeah. We're not using any type of zero knowledge proof or anything like that.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so there's no additional cryptography then applied towards privacy. It's more just the user themselves trying to figure out how to have good address hygiene.
Yes.
Yes. Exactly.
Yep. That's right.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So I apologize. I actually talk a lot in my interviews to try to sum up.
I love it.
Make sure that I understand. I figure if I can understand, then probably any knuckle dragger out there.
Yeah.
Probably. Maybe. We'll see. I don't know, guys. Give any questions you have in the comments to either of these fine gentlemen, Tron or Jeremy, if that wasn't clear. Yeah, thank you for kind of making that clear. As far as privacy being the main through line for this interview series, the whole point of that is that you may have already heard or read, there have been some users of major exchanges who have been banned from those exchanges for having used coin join solutions like Wasabi Wallet for their Bitcoin. And then receiving emails from those exchanges saying, by the way, 2 or 3 or within about 5 or half dozen jumps from off-ramping from our exchange, we see that you mixed your coins. We don't want to do business with you anymore. We don't like the color of your Bitcoin.
Which is weird because let's say that it's 3 jumps. Why would it, if it was 7 jumps, why would they care? You know, like it's just sending to 7 more addresses on the Bitcoin network. Like that's...
Well, and I think maybe...
It doesn't matter.
In today's world, though, I think maybe they're questioning, are all those jumps internal? Are you rinsing your own coins, essentially, from addresses that you maintain, that you control? And it's difficult to know.
Oh yeah, they make it difficult to know on purpose. Like that's what the Bitcoin protocol's for.
So philosophically, I'm aligned with having privacy. RavenCoin doesn't build that specifically in other than the good hygiene, which basically means that you use a different change address, right? For each one, and you can keep stuff separate and things like that. So it has the same privacy level as Bitcoin, for example. But philosophically, I'm aligned with the privacy coins. I think they're useful, they're helpful. It's a little scary what they're trying to do with the exchanges, and kind of requiring them to trace things back and connect people's names to addresses and things like that. So,
well, let's talk about that. I mean, look, we joke about it all the time on the channel that we're literally, we're spitting distance from an NSA data center right here. So the man is always watching. We know he's watching. Thank you, Edward Snowden. Please pardon Edward Snowden. That's my request. But we know that the government has an increasing interest in monitoring, filtering, and then, of course, with good intentions, intercepting bad actors in all communication. And cryptocurrency networks apparently provide a problem for them, a challenge for them.
No, I mean, you can make people safe, right? Just by keeping them all separate and all in cages and whatnot. But it's kind of antithetical to kind of freedom and that kind of thing. So it's kind of a continuum, and it seems, my opinion, we've stepped a little bit over the line as far as like giving or allowing the government to monitor things. And even the Supreme Court has kind of slapped down a lot of these things that have been allowed to get to the Supreme Court. They've kind of recognized that maybe they're kind of violating some of our bigger constitutional laws and things that were put in place. So
Okay, awesome. It sounds like then you're more of a fan of dangerous freedom as opposed to oppressive.
Within limits. I'm not for terrorism or anything like that, but I'm definitely for freedom, and also for our government not deceiving the people. That basically, not deceiving the people. And we've seen some of that, right? So.
Okay, awesome. Without it getting too heavy, because It sounds like then you were perhaps inspired when you read Satoshi's white paper and the early communications from Satoshi that he, she, they were very clear about this probably appealing to libertarians, all of it. From Bitcoin forward. He goes out of his way to say that, actually. With his British spelling of so many words. Right. That would probably appeal to libertarians.
Yeah, and it did.
Big time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why
I have a strong libertarian bent, and that term is loaded as well. So I have a strong freedom bent, right? Just freedom, and it can be constrained, but it also needs to be, kind of limited on what the government is. We have Fourth Amendment laws and things like that need to be followed. So.
Well, I guess I think it depends on where you live and how easily they can buy your cellular records. Fourth Amendment is.
But even that's a good example. Even that where the government had to kind of go give immunity for things that they had kind of done to protect the companies that had basically gone along. I mean, this is all kind of out there publicly, but not a surprise if you're kind of paying attention.
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to get. I get the sense that if we wanted to,
Yeah, no,
we could wrap a lot of layers of tinfoil on the top.
I could chat.
You could dig that hole.
Hours, yeah.
Well, maybe we'll do a follow-up and have that be the specific topic du jour. But for right now, again, with privacy-oriented cryptocurrencies,
Yep.
specifically being the topic, it sounds like with RavenCoin there isn't currently a model, if not a plan being worked on to add cryptographic privacy to at the protocol level.
Yep.
Is that something that's been discussed at all?
It has been discussed. So currently we're not working on that. If that ends up being the kind of gating factor, the thing that somebody says, hey, we would love to use this, but we really can't because there's too much association between individuals and what they own. We did struggle with this. In fact, early on, I kind of named it the Bill Gates problem, which is if you were doing securities and you noticed that there was a ton of Microsoft stock in this one address, and then that same address happened to pick up some Amazon stock, right? You could almost figure out the name from the ownership quantity of the individual. If that becomes a huge problem, then it may be something that we need to address. Yeah.
Okay, so this is then potentially an iterative step forward from the KYC.
Yeah.
Yes.
Protocol.
So the KYC thing is, and I want to be pretty clear on this, is limited to the tagging, right? Which means the KYC information is not on chain. It's a tag that points someone to an entity that hopefully would only, you could only get records from them with a subpoena or something like that. Not unlike like an exchange type scenario today. And we're actually trying to make it a little bit better than the existing model, in that right now when you go to any of these exchanges, right, in the US, they're like, what's your name, what's your social security number, give us your front and back of your passport, your driver's license, all this kind of stuff, right? But they're doing that at every single exchange. That seems like a disaster waiting to happen, right? Where
it just takes one of them and you have your information.
Yeah, and this is holding on to data. I mean, we've seen Home Depot, we've seen the government lose records of people who have security clearances. I mean, this isn't like, oh, well, those guys messed up, right? Where the government, it's like everybody has messed up, right? Big companies, small companies, government, secure facilities, they've all kind of messed up. So expecting that we give our identity to every one of these entities, it just seems like a huge risk. And so one of the things that we're attempting to do with this tagging is make it so that there's one entity. That entity right now, at least in our kind of a roadmap, is FinClusive, and that allows you to do where they can do the KYC, they can hold the information, and they can do a tag. The only person that could have done that tag, they'll have the private key to tag an address, a RavenCoin address, and to tag it. Once they've done that, you know where the data is, but you shouldn't have to, even in an exchange. This is where I think would be ideal, and would be an exchange could potentially say, hey, we took this address that has this KYC tag. We know someone's done the KYC. We don't need to do it again and hold the records again. And that should help things. I mean, it should prevent us from replicating the data into a whole bunch of insecure sites. Not intentionally insecure, but just sites that there's so many of them that they're going to get hacked periodically. And so we're hoping to kind of actually solve some of this.
Phenomenal. Okay, and I missed the name of the entity that's holding.
Yeah, FinClusive. FinClusive. Yeah. They're actually looking to be able to kind of do that for others, where they can do KYC, and the people running it are kind of amazing. They kind of were involved early on in some of the KYC rules and things like that, so they kind of know what they're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And they're more secure than the federal government and Sony.
I don't want to speak specifically. I mean, I'm assuming so.
I'm making a joke. I'm sorry. I know you can't possibly agree with that.
Yeah, I hate to vouch for anybody, right? It's like, yeah. So, but yeah, I think they're a big part of the solution.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Or companies like FinClusive.
Yeah. Really, anybody should be able to do this. And right now, nobody is doing it, and they're one of the first to took me a while to find them, and I should have found them faster because they're actually one of our portfolio companies, and so I think, yeah.
It sounds like then the future steps for RavenCoin are very much geared towards creating not so much privacy as much as anonymity for the purpose of qualified investment for now.
Yep.
I know if Bruce were here, he'd takes some issue with that phrase qualified investment or qualified investor.
Yep.
Versus just allowing people to invest.
Yep.
But the world is the way it is today.
Yeah.
And you're trying to protect the interests of people who want to invest.
Well, and even some of that's changing. The SEC has recently put out a proposal to change the definition of accredited investor to allow education, which is a big change. Right now, it's this arbitrary $1 million line or whatever of wealth or an earning of $200,000 or $300,000. They're looking at potentially changing that, which would open that up. Which is a good thing, right? There's no reason that somebody should be smarter investor just because they got a windfall of money or won a lottery or something like that. So
yeah, well, I mean, I wonder how many people that actually described as far as lottery winners who then go on to have a successful investment portfolio. That'd be a very interesting study.
It would be. In fact,
I'd like to see that graph.
They're usually notoriously bad at which kind of makes sense. Somebody who's investing in a lottery usually isn't maybe that's not the beginning of the wisest choice anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. That said, there are plenty of people also who were born into privilege and wealth.
Correct.
So
yeah, and may not have the education, right? They didn't earn it necessarily, and so yeah. No, I think education's a better solution. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's in comment period right now, so I think a 60-day comment period, and even one of the SEC commissioners basically wrote a letter in support of it, saying, yeah, we may even want to open it up a little wider. Said even he didn't qualify under the accredited investor rules as written. So
now we can change them. Got it.
Yeah, no, but it's a good acknowledgement of this kind of arbitrariness of the rules. So.
Yeah, phenomenal. Okay, so it sounds like then RavenCoin is very much dialed in to this space then. I follow a bit of Bruce's commentary on Twitter.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I kind of was aware of his opinions towards the investor scene today and who's considered qualified.
Yeah, we're trying to follow the rules. And
Tron, you mentioned that a partner in validating the KYC is a company called Finclusive,
yes. So we talked to a few different people, including Identity Mind, things like that. And one of the things that we were trying to accomplish is, I call it KYC transitivity, but nobody else does. So
it might catch on.
I hope it does. I heard it from someone else, so I didn't make up the term. I love the term, and so I've been using it. And I said, "Who said that?" Looked it up, couldn't find it, except for where I had said it. So somebody else came up with that term, but I love the term. But it's the idea that rather than having every exchange to collect your name and social security number and front and back of your driver's license and everything, and then potentially get hacked and that kind of thing, to have them just accept that an entity that's is doing KYC right, so they have their policies and things like that. So this is Finclusive, but it could be anybody, right? As long as we're doing it right, you can say, all right, they've tagged this RavenCoin address, and we know that they're holding the KYC, so you can go ahead and send a token to it, for example, that just needs to be KYC. Same thing for accreditation, right? An accreditation tag. And then the tokens themselves, you can give them rules. You can say, hey, it only can move to addresses that are KYC'd and accredited, and now you can create this ecosystem and still stay compliant. And that's really what we've been working on for about the last year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool. Thank you for the rundown of that.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure that we have a link to the blog post where you talk about the roadmap for this in the description of the video.
Absolutely.
But thank you for going back over that.
Sure.
Let's talk about privacy for the first time on camera. And thank you, gentlemen, again. Guys, anybody who's watching right now, they've been so generous with their time. For each of you, what's your favorite wallet today? For either desktop, mobile, or both?
So I'm a bit biased. So the Raven wallet that we have uses, actually integrates directly with the chain. It's not making API calls out to something. It's actually a full SPV node on the network. Makes, I think, one API call, which is to go get the price of Raven. So you know the kind of the dollar price, but that's it. Everything else
Pulls data from
chain.
nodes.
And it also does the things where, new address for the change and things like that. So it does use those best practices. So we have lots of great wallets, but if you talk about one that's interacting directly with the chain, that isn't relying on any servers, we do have that. And, in mobile for Android and iOS.
Awesome.
Yeah, so for me, for desktop, if I'm just using Raven, I use the RavenCoin wallet just because it's the most secure format to use it, I think, and take advantage of all the new features like that Raven offers for assets. For mobile, if you're looking for something quick, I prefer Zelcore because you can do Raven as well as Raven assets on it. It's a multi-wallet that uses API calls like Tron was talking about, but it does support assets. The current implementation of assets, which is really nice. So you could send your assets to your phone, see them within 10 seconds, and go, cool, done. So those would be mine.
Awesome. Do Miles and Dan know that you like their wallet?
Yes.
Okay.
They do. I work with them on the side.
Okay, so on privacy, as far as, and let's say it for the camera, I guess, your top 3 currencies, and it can be a cryptocurrency, it can be a real world store of value or unit of exchange that you think is valuable enough to be used. What do you think offers the best privacy?
Cash.
Okay. Cash is king then.
Yeah.
Cash is number 1?
Yeah, cash is.
Agree.
Yeah. I like Monero. I like Zcash. I like Grin and Beam, both.
Never used those. Have you used them?
I have mined one of them. Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm a big Zcash person. I've read the protocols, but I've never used the coin. And I feel like using it is a big... If you've actually used it, you can understand it a bit more. Like for me, Monero's would be like the 3rd or 4th because it's a little slower. Whereas Zcash, for me, when I use it, it's pretty quick. So like Zcash would be like number 2 for me, when Cash would be number 1.
Got it. Okay. So it sounds like then, as far as from a crypto developer standpoint, with both feet planted firmly on the ground, you need cash still in today's world.
Yeah, no, I think cash is important to stick around. So it'd be better if we don't have a central bank digital currency that replaces cash. I mean, it's fine to run in parallel, right? You have this ability to send money, across the world or over the internet, which is great. But cash doesn't do that. But cash is important to keep around. Yep.
I think so.
Awesome. As far as privacy technologies that are related to cryptocurrency and best practices using cryptocurrency, using additional supplemental privacy technologies, I think we were talking off camera a little bit about something by Whisper, the Signal app.
Yes.
Which is...
Yeah, there's one called Mixin that just added RavenCoin. So it has 24 currencies and it's based on the Signal protocol. It's open source. So just fairly recently added RavenCoin. So that's kind of an exciting one.
Very cool. But not assets yet. They haven't gone there yet.
They've not done assets yet.
No.
There's only a few wallets that are supporting assets currently. Zelcore is one of them. Mango Farms is one of them.
And then our mobile wallet on the App Store.
And likely Stibbits will be another one. So.
Yeah, I'm totally going to edit that out and be like, hey, just so you know, I'm completely knowledgeable about your mobile wallet. And I've been using it for a year now. Again, sorry about that. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for circling back to talk a bit about privacy.
Yeah.
Let's talk very briefly, and we check our camera to make sure we're completely okay here.
Completely recorded?
Yeah. Let's talk about proof of work.
Yeah.
Proof of work, clearly outlined in Satoshi's white paper as being like the feature.
Yep.
The security feature.
Yep.
Obviously, RavenCoin
is proof of work. Yep. Proof of work's great for distributing coins. Proof of stake seems to be pretty good. I know I'll probably get hate mail for even saying
No,
that.
I love proof of stake.
But it's not good for distribution, right? Because where do you start with, right? Who gets it first, right? Are you handing it out as an airdrop? So proof of work is kind of the best distribution method. I think proof of stake seems to be holding up pretty well. out there, but isn't good for distribution. Also, if you start with proof of stake currently and you do airdrops, there's some legal ramifications and things like that for that, right? But proof of work doesn't seem to have that issue. So.
Okay, phenomenal. In terms of practical terms, contributing to proof of work networks like RavenCoin.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about this off camera. RavenCoin was initially the proof of work algorithm that it uses, originally x16r and now x16r2, was conceived of as a GPU mineable currency, I think.
It's conceived as a non-ASIC, right? And it was only CPU. We built the mining back into the
wallet.
Yep, right into the wallet. You could just mine it, and it worked CPU for about 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then they started having this hybrid GPU CPUs that came out for the algorithms they didn't have on GPU yet. It was using the CPU, and then pretty soon it was all CPU, and then that became kind of the dominant. And then along the way, there was an ASIC that came out, and that was the reason for the V2 was the ability to. We just wanted to kind of obsolete that. We prefer it to be like the people's coin and have the distribution be better, and it's better if you can have your gaming rig and flip it off at night, turn it into a miner while you're not using it. And so we prefer to kind of keep that capability for RavenCoin.
Okay, and I'm sure it hit your radar when a company called SQRL out of Canton, Ohio, they announced and then sold a supplemental FPGA called the Acorn that fit into the M.2 slot of a user's motherboard and was intended to be kind of augment the hash rate of x16r when it first launched.
Yeah.
Similar to how apparently GPUs did for the CPU that first time around.
Yeah.
And I guess it was supposed to offload most of the catching functions. It's things that would be simpler for an FPGA to address.
Yeah. Which is fine. We talked about this off camera a little bit, but the ratio between GPUs and FPGAs isn't super high, right? It's more capital cost to buy an FPGA, and then you get a little bit more efficiency than you would on a GPU. But it didn't throw off the metrics that much. And even the ASICs that came out didn't throw it off that much. It really wasn't a kind of a threat to what we had planned. But if they continued down that path, it would have been the ratio. If the ratios get too high, pretty soon it's like the GPUs just can't compete, right? Chips, free electricity. So for that reason, we changed it. So we're mostly GPUs now, and I'm sure some FPGAs will come online.
Got it. Okay, so I went back and kind of addressing something that's a bit of old news with the Acorn launch. That has since come and gone. Apparently, users report that the net hash increase from adding these smaller FPGAs was not good enough for them to continue buying them. So SQRL discontinued that product.
Okay.
Xilinx, their silicon supplier, announced that they are going to be selling a mining-oriented appliance, FPGA appliance. It has no QSFP ports, it has no data ports, it has nothing, it's just for mining.
Okay.
And it has HBM2 memory on board, putting it on par with some of the really high-end cards from NVIDIA and AMD, but then giving it that unique advantage that FPGAs have with the proper bit stream and software environment being much more aggressive in mining. I don't know. I think what the leaked price is something like $1,000 per card here.
Okay.
Do you view that as being disruptive?
So it's not an existential threat, right? Even if there were ASICs, it doesn't. They're all in support of RavenCoin. What they're against is the wider distribution and the ability for someone who just has a video card to just to make some Raven, right? So it's not a and because the community is very likes this idea. And if we change, an FPGA can probably adapt almost as fast as a GPU probably can adapt. So there really isn't not much that can be done there. There's a little bit because there's some things that FPGAs might not be quite as good at as a GPU, and so those are but.
Technology is always evolving. Like it's hard to be ahead of the evolving technology forever. At some point, it's going to catch up, and then what are you going to do when it does? So we've had that happen once. We'll see if it happens again, and then I don't know if we can do it for forever. I mean, we're human, we're going to die at some point, so we definitely can't do it forever.
Right.
So there has to be a middle ground to be like, okay, where is that distribution? Where are we okay with that distribution being? And why is that? And then make that decision with the community so that we're all together and we stay as a community, because that's what we want.
Yep.
Okay, so
Well said.
yeah, on that note, as far as there being some coin projects that they've issued a very public stance about ASIC resistance to the level that, say, Ricardo Spagni has with
Yes.
Monero,
Yep.
saying every 6 months we're going to fork,
Yep.
or like Dan Keller has with the Zell team, who then rallied a bunch of, it was primarily Equihash-based coins that they rallied together for the ASIC resistance, this little subgroup on Discord where a bunch of coin projects talked openly and shared knowledge between Bitcoin Gold to Zell and everybody else in between, all saying we need to do something, and a lot of them went separate ways by changing the N and K variables in the Equihash algorithm.
Right.
On a scale of Monero to this little cooperative from the Equihash coins, where would you say that RavenCoin is in terms of responding to ASICs as a threat?
Yeah. I think threat is too strong a word. Just doesn't fit the ethos as much. So it's a balance between that and it's considerable disruption to change every time, right? Even that 6-month thing, even if it's on schedule, all of the exchanges, everybody has to switch and things like that, to the new software. So I wouldn't call it a threat. I would call it kind of a goal to keep it open to people who just have commodity hardware and can buy it and run it. That's the goal, and so I think the community is kind of rallied in that direction, and so within that and without kind of like ticking off all the people that are just running it as a core part of their exchange and merchant tools and store and things like that, we have to balance those. So,
got it. Well, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you being willing to rehash a little bit of what we talked about with privacy and proof of work mining.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you double, thank you extra for the extra time. And is there anything that people who are maybe unfamiliar with RavenCoin in terms of having a chance to talk to the lead development team?
Yeah.
What would you want them to know as far as being able to contribute, whether it's their input, their feedback?
Yeah, so there's depending on what you are, right? Meaning how you want to be involved, right? You can be involved in any way. You can go mine it, grab your video card, switch it on at night, right? Mine. You can, if you're a developer, come join. If you want to become a blockchain developer, come cut your teeth over, pick something. We've got lots of things that can be fixed and improved, and then write a pull request, and we'll evaluate it, make sure it's safe and improves the coin. We can add that in there. If you're if you like to do marketing or that kind of thing, you can join in. Telegram, Discord, we don't run them. If you want to be a moderator on there, we've got volunteer moderators that there's place for just about anybody. If you just want to invest, you can come do that. If you just want to have a friendly environment to learn about crypto, it's also pretty good for that. We're kind of the RavenCoin community is a lot friendlier than some of the other coins, and I won't mention names.
Yeah, I think anybody who's dipping their toe in the water, cryptocurrency, that they've run into more than a couple DYORs and GTFOs and
you can get in a channel and get your face ripped off for asking questions, and that won't happen over at RavenCoin. So.
Awesome.
We hope not.
No, it really is friendly.
No, it's great.
Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. As a special commemoration of our chat with RavenCoin, please post your Raven address in the comments below. I'll choose one lucky winner to send a unique, non-fungible Raven-issued token to. That's right, a limited edition RavenCoin token. I admitted in the interview that I have many of them lying around, and I'm sure the community over at RavenCoin would be happy to send you something unique as well. And there are a lot of unique tokens out there. So leave that down in a comment below. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, click the bell icon so you're notified when new developer interviews like this come out. You're the reason I make this media. I love your face. and I'll see you in the next one.